The countdown until CCC continues. Hello everyone, Soberoni of G&A Reviews here, and in today's spotlight we're going to be taking a look at the only servant with a bust size larger than her attack stat, Passionlip. We'll be examining her stats and skills, as well as going over pointers on how to utilize her effectively, and an overall grade comparing her to how she stacks up to the other 4-star servants. Now, onto Passionlip's stats. Passionlip has a max HP of 10,901 and a max attack of 10,299. Funnily enough, she does share the same HP stat with the only other 4-star alter ego, but she does have a higher attack stat. Compared to all the other 4-star servants, her HP is significantly low, while her attack ranks among the highest. Overall, her stats are highly geared toward offense. Taking a look at her skills, her first skill is Breast Valley, rank A. It applies damage cut 3 times for 5 turns, reducing damage between 500 and 1000 depending on level, and it also applies Nullified debuff for 3 times or 5 turns. Her second skill is Masochistic Streak, rank A. It applies Taunt for 1 turn and increases her defense for 1 turn between 10 and 30% depending on level. This skill can be improved through a strengthening quest, which will add the effect of increasing Passionlip's attack when her HP is below 50%. The attack increase varies between 10 to 50% depending on level. And finally, her last skill is Trash and Crash, rank EX. It increases her attack for 3 turns between 10 and 30% depending on level, gives her a 10% chance to inflict death with each attack for 1 time, increases her defense for 1 turn between 10 and 30% depending on level, applies Ignore Invincibility for 3 turns, and inflicts stun on herself for 1 turn as a demerit. Moving on to her passives. She has Magic Resistance rank C, which increases her debuff resist by 15%, Independent Action rank C, which increases her crit strength by 6%, Presence Concealment rank A+, which increases her crit star drop rate by 10.5%, and Core of the Goddess rank C, which applies damage plus 200 and increases debuff resist by 20%. Moving on to her deck and Noble Phantasm, Passionlip has a Buster deck with Quick Arts Buster 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 and a Buster Noble Phantasm. Her Noble Phantasm, Brynhild Romantia, deals significant damage to all enemies with between 300 and 500% damage modifier and restores the HP of all allies between 2000 and 4000 depending on overcharge. This can be improved through a strengthening quest, which will increase the damage modifier to between 400 and 600% depending on level, and increase the healing effect to between 3000 and 7000 depending on overcharge. Taking a closer look at her cards, we see that her quick card hits 4 times, her arts hits 3 times, her buster card hits once, and her extra attack hits 5 times. She has an NP gain rate of 0.77% and a star rate of 9.9%. Passionlip does have good NP gain on her arts and quick, and her NP is capable of good star generating thanks to the large number of hits. However, because her deck is so buster heavy, her actual NP gain and star generating is inconsistent. Passionlip is the other 4-star Sakura Face servant joining FGO with CCC. Unfortunately, unlike BB, she isn't free. And when you see Passionlip, there are 2 things that you should notice immediately. The first being, damn, look at them titties! And the second being that she has a typical Berserker deck, loaded to the brim with Buster cards. And even her attack stat is in league with Berserker servants like Herc and Beowulf. So obviously Passionlip is a heavily offensive servant. That said though, she does pack a pretty defensive skill set. Her first skill, Breast Valley, gives her a hefty 3-time damage cut and debuff immunity. The damage cut is significant, twice as strong as waivers, and the debuff immunity is crucial because it not only protects you from enemy debuffs, but it also nullifies Passionlip's own self-stun on her third skill. Another interesting thing about this skill is that both the cooldown and the effects last for 5 turns, so you can keep it active semi-permanently if you don't get hit 3 times. Masochistic Streak is another defensive utility skill in Passionlip's kit. It grants Taunt with a 30% defense buff for 1 turn, and the synergy with Breast Valley is very strong. When activating the skills together, Passionlip can usually nullify most if not all the damage and debuffs from an enemy for 1 turn. Post-strengthening quest, this skill even grants Passionlip a strong attack buff that scales based on how low her HP is. Because Masochistic Streak has a very short 4-turn cooldown, you can actually make use of her taunt often, and when near death, your attack buff becomes nearly permanent. But Passionlip's signature skill is Trash and Crash. It grants a strong attack buff on top of a good defense buff, and a 3-turn invincibility pierce. Between her 3 skills, Passionlip can grant herself a full 60% defense buff and 1000 HP damage cut, allowing her to even tank enemy noble phantasms on her own. The chance to inflict death with each attack is so small that it's negligible, and the self-stun isn't much of a demerit because it can be nullified by your first skill. Because of that, it's extremely important to always activate your first skill before your third. Skill priority for Passionlip should be Trash and Crash first because of the wealth of effects that it grants you, followed by Masochistic Streak for the low cooldown, and then Breast Valley last because it already has a naturally high uptime. Passionlip's Noble Phantasm is an AoE that also heals all allies for a significant amount. This NP can hit hard for an AoE thanks to the NP interlude and Lip's naturally high attack, especially if you're at low HP. The heal is fantastic both as a party-wide utility and for enabling Passionlip to stay at low HP safely. Passionlip is a very strange servant in that she's an offensive buster gorilla that also uses high defense utility. Every one of her skills has a defensive buff of some sort in it, so even though she lacks guts or invincibility, she's extremely tanky and can easily tank most enemy NPs or any damage. She can even tank enemy debuffs during later story missions and challenge quests. Her taunt is on an obscenely short cooldown, so she can utilize it frequently. And after her strengthening quest, Lip gains a whole new element of gameplay with the attack buff on Masochistic Streak. Much like Hijikata and Ann and Mary, Passionlip's power spikes by leaps and bounds when she's below half HP. And because her taunt has such a low cooldown, she can easily get herself to low HP safely, so it isn't anywhere near as risky as Hijikata or Ann and Mary. The heal is party-wide, so it offers even more defensive utility to the party. Passionlip's whole purpose is to tank hits for your team and dish out damage back. This is, however, a double-edged sword. Passionlip needs to be below half HP to deal any real damage. And prior to her strengthening quest, her damage is very lacking, making her mainly only useful as a tank. She also relies heavily on her Noble Phantasm for the heal, but her Noble Phantasm gain can be awful if you're not lucky enough to get her arts card. Her 2 biggest defense buffs also only last a single turn, so proper skill management is necessary to make the most of her. Finally, because she's an alter ego and an AoE servant, even with her low HP attack buff, don't expect her to be as good as a Buster Gorilla Berserker in terms of damage. Moving on to team comp synergy, Passionlip can be a great addition to many Buster teams because she can support other Buster servants with her taunt and heal while also synergizing with their deck. And post-strengthening quest, Passionlip can even be a strong offensive centerpiece for your team, provided that you can support her at low HP. Passionlip can work well with pretty much any other Buster servant, but in particular I suggest pairing her with Quetzalcoatl, Ibaraki, or Bedivere. Not only can Lip tank hits for the fragile rider, but in return Quetzalcoatl can even bolster Lip's damage with charisma and give her a buster buff and guts. Ibaraki works well with Passionlip because both are tanky while also being good damage dealers, and Ibaraki's buff removal complements Lip's debuff removal. Bedivere is also a good choice because his defense buff can give Lip a full 90% reduction to damage when combined with her own defense buffs. On the other side of the coin, if you're trying to use Lip as your primary attacker post-strengthening quest, then your 2 best options are Irisfield and Nightingale. Irisfield can do a phenomenal job of keeping Lip alive at low HP with her heal and guts so that she can maintain the buff from Masochistic Streak, while Nightingale can provide additional healing and an extremely powerful buster buff. Passionlip's Bondcraft Essence is Don't Look Away. It buffs all allies' Buster card effectiveness by 20%, but also lowers debuff resist by 20%. It's a good craft essence to use on Buster teams, particularly because Passionlip relies more on her own debuff immunity over debuff resistance, but it does open your party up to being debuffed a lot, so don't use it for any bosses or challenge quests. Instead of that, you can use a craft essence that bolsters Lip's Buster card effectiveness to improve her damage, like Limited Zero, Hero Eli-chan, Demon King of the Sixth Heaven, or Collide Ruby. If you're playing more of a utility role for your team, I heavily suggest using Maiden of Chaldea, Steel Training, or our Conquest on the Ocean of Stars. Maiden of Chaldea is ideal for supporting crit servants like Rama or Gil, Steel Training is best if you plan on making use of your taunt a lot, and Ocean of Stars is great for helping you get your Noble Phantasm off more frequently for healing while still bolstering your damage considerably. For future proofing, I really like Gilgamesh in New York since it buffs your Buster card effectiveness tremendously and gives a nice boost to NP gain too. Overall, Passionlip is a unique servant with a strong niche as a Buster support or offensive tank. Her defensive utility is extremely high. She has a short cooldown taunt, a strong heal, a semi-permanent debuff immunity, and post-strengthening quest, she can be a big threat offensively when below half HP. But prior to that strengthening quest and NP interlude, her damage is lacking significantly. And even post-strengthening quest, she isn't as useful unless she's close to death, making her a little risky. Her NP gain and star generating are wildly inconsistent, and her defense buffs, while strong, have a short uptime, so mistiming them can leave Passionlip very vulnerable. With all that said, she gets a B from me pre-strengthening quest and a B+ post-strengthening quest. Her lack of damage at release is disappointing, but she still works really well as a tank. And once she does get her upgrades, she becomes viable offensively and packs some serious utility in her heal. A buff to her NP gain or an NP charge skill is really the only thing keeping her from being top tier. And those are my thoughts on Passionlip. If you plan on rolling for this QD, let me know in the comments, and if you haven't already, do check out the spotlights for BB and Melt, linked on screen right now and in the description below. Also, don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and consider subscribing if you really enjoyed the video. Join the party over at our Discord, chill with us on Twitch, and follow us on Twitter. And I'll see you all in the next Servant Spotlight. So we're already out. Later.